Before we get started with today's video, I want to thank you guys all for liking and subscribing and commenting down below. We just passed 500 subscribers and I just want to say thank you for that. Over the past couple days I've been uploading these reaction videos, and among them was a Project 2025 video, and that video has become the most disliked video on our YouTube channel over the past few years. I want to say right here and right now, so that everyone can understand, I regret nothing. I don't regret the title, I don't regret the thumbnail, I don't regret the content of the video. I stand by everything I said in it, and if you don't like that, that's okay. To any returning viewers or any new viewers, I just want to say I don't watch any of these videos before I start recording them. That's the whole point of this series, is just to be a raw reaction. What do I think? What do I feel? You know, I'm gonna watch these videos anyway, right? So I might as well watch them live and put some videos out for you to see. Maybe these are not in your feed. Maybe there's some stuff here that you normally wouldn't come across. Now, when it comes to Project 2025, this is something that I've seen pop up in my feed before, and to be fair, the video that I initially clicked on or wanted to react to was about a second revolution being bloodied or something like that. That was the original content of that video that I thought I was getting. Instead, what I got was an attempted smear campaign by CNN to discredit the beliefs or the opinions that were put into Project 2025. And what I found was that there was actually a lot of stuff in there that I could find common ground with, things that I agree with. Now, I said in that video that there were very clearly some things that I don't agree with, but of course everybody missed that point. So we're going to take a second bite of the apple, and this time we're going to go to MSNBC. And this video is titled Project 2025's Unhinged Wish List: Criminalize Porn and Ban Birth Control. So maybe Chris Hayes and MSNBC will do a much better job of maybe pointing out some of the flaws that are within Project 2025. And again, to be clear, I have not researched all of Project 2025. I do not know where I stand on it. From the stuff I saw in the CNN video, not bad. The stuff that's in this video, we'll see. As I edit videos, and I will continue to do research on Project 2025, and maybe perhaps one day I can put together a more comprehensive video essay for you about what I think about Project 2025. I simply do not have the time to do that right now, and I'm not going to. So, all of that out there in the beginning and up front for you to understand. Let's get into the video.
If you've been closely watching this show and this network, and even on social media, you've probably heard of Project 2025, sometimes also called the Presidential Transition Project. It's a 900-page policy document put together by a bunch of conservative interest groups as a guide for how a second Trump administration can weaponize the federal government in pursuit of a, frankly, frighteningly authoritarian vision.
And that's kind of how everybody's been pitching it from what I've seen, is that it's super scary. It's super bad. It's so bad, Trump himself won't even affiliate himself with it. I saw people in our comment section saying that, well, you know, Trump himself doesn't even like it. That's how bad it is. He's actually for Agenda 47. That's his plan. That's what he's for. Well, I don't know if they're going to point it out in this video or not, but a lot of Trump allies and a lot of people who are, let's say, deep within Trump's network are a part of this. The Heritage Foundation, he's made positive comments about the Heritage Foundation president before. It's not like this is something that's unknown to him. And, even to take it away from the Heritage Foundation a little bit, if you read their foreword, which is about as far as I've gotten in the book, they mentioned that this is done in coordination with 50 other conservative organizations. So these views are not even necessarily the views of the Heritage Foundation. They're just the big name that's attached to it. But this is more of a conservative consensus on what the plan of action should be for conservative leadership, right? So that's kind of where it's coming from there. But all of the attacks that I see on it are, well, they're attacks, so they're obviously negative. But everything I see about this is mostly negative, even from left and right. And I'm just saying, from the CNN video, things looked okay. Let's see what this looks like.
It's also a wish list of a bunch of fringe far-right policy proposals that I think many voters would be really horrified to learn about. Okay. It seems like a lot of people are starting to pick up on the project and its proposals thanks to warnings like this one from host Taraji B. Henson at this week's BET Awards.
Matter drink.
Pay attention. It's not a secret. Look it up. They are attacking our most vulnerable citizens. The Project 2025 plan is not a game. Look it up.
I don't think it's a game. I think that this is, like I said, this is the culmination of dozens. I think they said 50. You know, quote, tell me if I'm wrong. Why not? 50 or so organizations, conservative organizations. This is the culmination of their work. This is something serious. You don't put together a 900-page document and not be serious about your intentions to achieve something. So she's saying it's a threat to vulnerable communities. We'll see. You know, as I read more about it and as we watch more content about it, we'll see how my opinion changes on that subject. But, you know, it is not a game. It is serious. It is out there, and it is public. And so, you know, let's see what Chris Hayes has for us.
According to some reports, the project actually began trending on Google immediately after those comments. But even with the new influx of attention, I still think the details of Project 2025 are undercovered relative to how absolutely unhinged they are, even by the standards of today's Republican Party. So,
okay.
First and foremost, there is this nakedly authoritarian plotting, like the plan to weaponize the Department of Justice as a tool directly under the control of Donald Trump. Quoting from the document itself, the DOJ falls under the direct supervision and control of the President of the United States as a component of the executive branch. Litigation decisions must be made consistent with the President's agenda. By the way,
isn't that the state of things right now? Isn't the DOJ under the purview of the president right now? Isn't that, you know, the whole thing that's happening right? Like, there were people in the comments that were saying, like, this is how it already exists. You know, the plan is just laying that out. Isn't that the case already? Isn't the DOJ already? Now I'm going to look it up. Hey, see what y'all are doing to me? It's supposed to be a live react. Okay, so the Department of Justice, also known as the Justice Department, is a federal executive department of the United States government tasked with the enforcement of federal law and administration of justice in the United States. It is the equivalent to the Justice or Interior Ministries of other countries. The department is headed by the U.S. Attorney General, who reports directly to the President of the United States and is a member of the President's cabinet. So it's already under the President's purview. So what the hell is the point? Let's go back and see exactly what he says about this.
The tool directly under the control of Donald Trump. Quoting from the document itself, the DOJ falls under the direct supervision and control of the President of the United States as a component of the executive branch. Litigation decisions must be made consistent with the President's agenda. By the way, as we just read, the DOJ is led by, you know, whatever. It reports directly to the President in his cabinet. Why would it not want to execute decisions maybe consistent with the President's agenda? What? Okay, so it seems to me like they're stating facts and they're pointing at those facts and saying those are bad. Justice John Roberts just endorsed that in the 6-3 immunity decision, so they've got carte blanche on that.
They got carte blanche on that because that's the way it is. Like, I don't understand. What is the criticism there? They're acting like this is like before it was something separate, but now they're saying they want it to be under the same thing. Seems like it always was.
What it means is that Donald Trump directs the Department of Justice. There is no independence. There's no firewall. He tells them what to do, who to prosecute, who to defend, and the like.
Again, isn't that the way it already is? You know, the leader of the DOJ is a member of Trump's cabinet, and if you hire somebody to work in your cabinet and they don't do what you tell them to do, you fire them. And you get somebody else who will do what you tell them to do. As long as it's in accordance with the law. I understand the whole Pence thing and all that, but, like, what the hell?
And I think this portion of Project 2025, the authoritarian plots to purge the civil service, replace it all with MAGA loyalists, like, deep down into the government, is getting most of the attention, and for good reason. But there's so much more to Project 2025, including, again, a whole bunch of fringe, hard-right culture war stuff. Okay. So, for instance, unsurprisingly, the document calls for a full-out, whole-of-government approach to the assault on reproductive rights on women. For conservatives to gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe v. Wade.
I want to be clear about something. The overturning of Roe v. Wade was a good thing. No matter where you stand on abortion, I think it's a good thing. If you think that abortion policies have been too strict, it's a good thing. If you think abortion policies have been too lenient, it's a good thing. The only thing that overturning Roe v. Wade has done is turn that decision back to the states. And let me remind you, abortion is not mentioned in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in any of the founding documents. Any power that's not explicitly mentioned by the Constitution then goes to the states. 10th Amendment. All of this stuff belongs with the states. And, you know, if you want to get into my own personal beliefs even more, it belongs even further than that. It belongs to local communities, to individuals. It belongs to them. And so, personally, I don't think that government should have any involvement in abortion. I think that it should be up to the individual. Personally, I'm not in favor of abortion. I wouldn't support it. I wouldn't support you having one. I wouldn't support anyone in my family having one. And I certainly don't want to pay for anyone else's abortion. So, I'm okay with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Finally, conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation by overturning Roe v. Wade. Obviously, there's some conservative sentiments in there, you know, with the pro-family aspect and all of that. But I'm generally okay with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Let me know if you're not.
It includes an effective abortion ban by calling for the FDA, right? They're going to appoint people to the FDA who suddenly announce, oh, you can't have a medication abortion. Reverse its approval of chemical abortion drugs.
Okay, and so this was something that came up in the CNN video that I reacted to, that everyone got all bent out of shape about. I don't think the FDA should exist at all. And so this is exactly why. Because when the FDA does something that you like, oh, it's a good thing. When the FDA does something that you don't like, say reversing the approval of chemical abortion drugs and then taking them away and making them illegal to own or illegal to whatever, or illegal to take, you know, that's a problem. And I don't think it should be that way. I think there should be more faith put in the American public, and people should be able to make decisions for themselves on whether or not they think these things are effective or useful or whatever. If an organization, people will say, well, you have to make sure things are safe. You don't want things out on the market that'll hurt people. Private institutions can take care of this just fine. We have, you know, when you go to buy a car, you know, there's, you go to Auto Trader, there's reviews, there's all these kinds of things. You can have the same thing for food and drugs and everything else. And people can say, hey, this chemical abortion drug is pretty bad. This one's pretty good. This one has terrible side effects. This one doesn't. You can do all of that market research alone, and there will be companies that will do these certifications anyways, and they'll make a hefty profit off of it, just like the FDA probably could. And that's okay. We don't have to have an FDA that tells you this is okay, that's not okay. We don't have to live in this world.
Like mifepristone, which is used in the majority of all abortions in this country. And again, in red and blue states where abortion is legal or not. And to be clear, there's no absolutely justification for this, right? Mifepristone has been used safely for decades. This is not a scientific determination. They're going to put some apparatchik into charge of FDA to do this.
And that's the problem. That's why you don't want these organizations to exist at all, or these government entities to exist at all. It's one thing to have a private organization that puts up reviews and has whatever, and you can say, well, that one's credible source, that one's not a credible source. I trust this outlet, I don't trust that outlet. You can make your own individual decision on who you say is right and who you say is wrong, which one comports to your more personal beliefs and all that. We don't need the government to come in and say this is good for you, this is bad for you. It's okay. There's other people that will do that of their own volition. This is what I'm saying. I don't want an FDA at all. Am I in favor of the FDA saying that this drug is okay for you? No. Am I okay with an FDA coming in and saying that this drug is bad for you? No. I don't want them outlawing this at all. So I don't want to outlaw abortion drugs. I don't think that the government should be involved in it.
Project 2025 wants to take it away, citing in part the hundreds of thousands to millions of babies whose lives have been unjustly taken through chemical abortion.
And that's going to be their conservative approach to it. And that's fine. You can have that opinion. We don't need someone from the FDA telling us what we can and can't do. That's the takeaway that I have.
Document goes further than FDA approval, calls on the Department of Justice to criminalize sending the pill through the mail under the Comstock Act, an archaic anti-obscenity law from the 19th century, which has been rendered largely unenforceable in subsequent decades. In addition to the abortion pill, Project 2020...
And I don't think... I'm going to back up a little bit, too, so I don't miss this point, but I don't think that should be criminalized. Just like I don't think that the FDA should be telling you what drugs you can and can't do, I don't think that we should be criminalizing people who doing these things either. And that goes for all drugs, pretty much. So... And I say pretty much, but I can't think of one that should not be legal. So, yeah, I don't think we should criminalize the sending of abortion drugs either. I think these two things, and they're kind of tied together, I think they're both bad. And if that's what Project 2025 says, then that's bad.
Rendered largely unenforceable in subsequent decades. In addition to the abortion pill, Project 2025 also wants to strip the mandate for free emergency contraception from Obamacare.
Okay, like I'm not for Obamacare. I am not for a public health care system. I'll take that back just slightly. I am okay with a public health care system. I am not okay with being forced into a public health care system, meaning I am not okay having myself or my family be taxed to pay for the health care of other families. I would, if people want a public option and they say, I think the best thing would be for the government to negotiate on my behalf, then those people should be able to opt into that public option. It should be a public option, though. It shouldn't be public force or subsidized by the rest of the public through whatever programs or taxes or anything like that. I think healthcare can be handled at the individual level. That's what I do with my family. I don't participate in any Obamacare or any government healthcare things or anything like that. I try to take care of it myself as much as possible, whether that's through private insurance or whether that's through, paying cash for different services. I think that we can have a much better outcome if people took responsibility for their own health care rather than putting that burden on the government. And people will say, well, health care is way too expensive, and that's why we need government to step in and do something about this, because there are drug companies and everybody else that will take advantage of everybody. I don't necessarily think that. I see that being the case in some very rare instances, but overall, generally speaking, I don't think that's the case. I think the reason why healthcare costs so much is because of over government intrusion and over government regulation into all of these areas. Because it's subsidized by government, the cost will go up. Because it's over regulated by government, costs will go up. If we kind of turn this out to the free market, then we have a much better chance of getting not only better health outcomes, but better costs and better affordability and better access.
And look, Republicans are not going to stop until they have all but eliminated access to reproductive health care in this country, full stop.
That's your opinion, man. Like that's just, I don't think that's where they want to go. I think there are conservatives out there that want to get rid of abortion entirely and want to outlaw it and make it illegal. And there's even some people in the libertarian space that feel that way. But that's not a popular opinion. That's not going to come to fruition. And I don't think that anything like that would even stand, past, Supreme Court or whatever, ultimate decision is being made there. It's a decision that should be made at the individual level between individuals, and government should have nothing to do with it.
They're also, not surprisingly, committed to stopping the enormous seismic green energy transition to doom us to the most catastrophic consequences of climate change. The document refers to attempts to mitigate climate change, to mitigate it as a radical climate policy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it just depends on what you're saying there. But, I don't think there should be subsidies for climate change or for any other industry. So if that's what they're saying, that we need to shut down all of these, Chris Hayes is going to freak out about this because it's climate change and it's the end of the world and all this kind of stuff. But, I don't see it that way. I think, climate's changed forever, and it's continuously changing, and it's always going to change, and it's going to self-regulate no matter what we do. So I don't really see this as a big issue, but I don't think we should, even if it were a big issue, I don't think that we need to be, putting taxing everybody about it or forcing people to go to electric vehicles or any of this kind of stuff. People, I think, are pretty invested in the livability of their own planet. I don't think this is something that we need to have, the Green New Deal for. I think that goes too far, and I think most people agree with that, and that's why it continuously gets shot down.
It calls for an end to the unprovoked war on fossil fuels, for the government to oppose eyesore windmills built at taxpayer expense.
I thought he was going to say something else about oil, but yeah, there's no reason to outlaw oil or even to outlaw fracking or anything like that. If you own a piece of land and you want to frack the shit out of it, that's your land. Property rights first. Do whatever you want. I don't give a shit. It's your land. And if it spills over into my land, then we can get, that goes into a much deeper debate. But that can be litigated. That doesn't have to be, it doesn't mean that we have to stop fracking altogether. It just means that, hey, you can frack, but you're gonna have to take care of the people around you or something like that. You owe them compensation for destroying their quality of life or something. This can all be litigated. I don't understand the big deal. So far, I'm waiting for the bad stuff. I've seen a couple bad things. Let's see.
Document also calls for all federal laws, grants, regulations, and contracts to delete every instance of the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, and reproductive rights.
So they want them to delete these words and don't have any reference to these in government documents. I mean, like, people should be treated as individuals. I mean, that's where I stand on it altogether. This is definitely trying to get rid of, you know, a lot of the culture war stuff. Gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness. I don't believe in equity. I think that's stupid. So I'm okay with that one. Gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights. So what are they saying? They want to delete this language from federal documents? Not necessarily opposed to that. Uphold individual liberty. That's all you really need to say. Let's see what I rewind it a little bit. Let's see.
Diversity, equity, inclusion.
Oh, okay, it's the same thing. All right, go.
Document also calls for all federal laws, grants, regulations, and contracts to delete
federal grants, regulations, laws, and contracts.
every instance of the terms sexual orientation and gender identity, diversity, equity, inclusion, gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, and reproductive rights, saying they're used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights.
Yeah, I think that could be true. I mean, it could be true. It could be true that you're saying, you know, you want to have gender equity, so you can't talk trash about women, or, you know, you want to have equity and inclusion, so, you know, you can't talk crap about certain groups, right? All that kind of stuff is used to deprive people of their First Amendment rights in certain instances. So I could see that.
Reproductive health. It demands the Department of Health and Human Services immediately put an end to the department's foray into woke transgender activism. And get this, I don't think people know this, but people should. Pornography should be outlawed, and the people who produce and distribute it should be in prison.
This is bad. Okay, I don't think porn's good for you. I think it's done a lot to the dating culture that's out there and all the problems people are having with that. I'm thankfully married. I don't have to deal with this crap. But, you know, obviously, this is bad. This is bad. Okay? This is bad. What else do you want me to say? This is bad.
America 2024. Now, I promise you, I could go on like this for an entire hour. I encourage you to read the document for yourself. Remarkably easy to find with a cursory search online.
Yeah, it's very easy to find. Project2025.com/policy, I think. Something like that. Yeah.
And that, of course, is because
oh, there it is. Project2025.org. It's very public.
Republicans are incredibly proud of their little project. Listen to the project's architect, the president of the Heritage Foundation, on this network last month.
Okay.
The organization in this plan talks about changing the Department of Health and Human Services to the Department of Life. Do you think that women in America should be able to get an abortion if that is what their doctor says they need?
Yes. My answer is yes. Let's see what he says.
Abortion's not health care. I find it really interesting, if not worse, that you wouldn't support the change of the department name to the Department of Life. I thought we were all in support of life. We believe eminently in women's rights, and particularly women's rights in the womb.
This is ridiculous. He's playing the same word games that the left does. You guys, you guys that were freaking out about the last video clearly have no idea my position here if you think that I'm in alignment with this at all. No. Like, he's playing the same fucking word games that they play with Black Lives Matter. Like, oh, well, I thought you cared about black people. You must not think Black Lives Matter. Like, all this kind of stuff. Oh, I thought pro-choice. I thought you were for individual liberty. I can't believe that you would say abortion is a bad thing. All kinds of. This guy, just like every other conservative, it's one thing to have moral values. It's another thing to impose said values on the rest of the world, right? And that's the issue that I have with conservatives. Anyway, let's keep going.
Women in the womb. That position is openly and proudly out of touch with what most Americans want, but that's sort of the point. Because Project 2025 is in many respects about power, about a right-wing vanguard minority forcing its fringe agenda onto the American voters by any means necessary. This is what we're going to go to do, and you can't stop us.
Okay. I think he's definitely being a little hyperbolic there. But yeah, like that, like I said, that's my issue with this. for the aspects of this, which, and again, the stuff that was shown on the CNN stuff, I stand by everything I said in that video. And just like if I post this video, it'll be everything I stand by everything I say in this video as well. I am not for imposing your moral authority on the rest of the country or the rest of the world. I am not for that at all. I think government needs to step away from the personal lives of individuals and let them live their own lives as freely as possible. I am for individual sovereignty at the highest extent possible. That's what I'm for. And so, anyway, let's keep going.
And if you think I'm exaggerating, just listen to that same Heritage Foundation president on an episode of Steve Bannon's podcast yesterday, guest hosted by former Republican Congressman Dave Brat, because Bannon is currently in prison.
Okay, what?
We're in the process of taking this country back. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Okay, so this was the comment that was originally pitched in the CNN video that I thought I was going to react to. And in case you missed it and you don't know what I'm referring to this whole time, yeah, I think what he's saying there is that if we're elected, we're going to move forward with this agenda, and as long as there's not violent resistance, we won't get violent in return. I think it's a self-defense comment. I don't think it's an aggressive comment, but let's see how Chris Hayes takes it.
Right on. Thank you, brother.
I'm cool, buddy. We're in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
What does that mean? What do you think that means, Chris Hayes?
In other words, we won't be violent if you don't make us.
Yeah, I won't attack you if you don't invade my house. like what? Like, yeah, I feel like they're purposefully taking, okay, I think two things are going on here. I think they're purposefully taking that comment to mean something that it doesn't mean, that they're going to be aggressive and that they're going to kill all who oppose them. I think that's how MSNBC and other people who are reacting to that comment are purposefully taking it that way so that they can react in another way. I also think that the president of the Heritage Foundation, when he made that comment, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he knew he was going to trigger people to reacting in that way, and that people would come out and defend him like I did and say that it's about self-defense. It gets people talking. You know, it's provocative. It gets the people going. That's why he said it. But he's going to take it super serial, so let's go.
They're not really bothering to veil their threats anymore. Project 2025 is a straight-up dictatorial fantasy of control over the American people. And when they talk about revolution, taking the country back, what this means is that this small coterie of hard-right zealots, these really creepy weirdos, are going to exert total control over every aspect of your life in terms of what you look at and what you read, what you mail, what your healthcare is. That guy controlling your healthcare? You want that?
No, I don't want that. And to the extent that what he says is true, like, yeah, I obviously don't want that, not in support of that. But if you're going to point to things like dismantling the administrative state or returning to a system of self-governance, if you're going to point to those quotes and you're going to say that this is a terrible thing, I'm obviously going to think you're crazy. And I think the media does itself a giant disservice when it highlights those things and points at them as bad rather than pointing at these things and saying that it's bad, because I actually find myself agreeing with Chris Hayes more than I did with those people from CNN that we reacted to the other day. And so if the people at CNN would have done a, I think, better job like Chris Hayes has done in pointing out some of the worst aspects of this, there would be more opposition in my reaction like there has been today.
We're not trying to hide it, and everyone should know.
All right, so I hope that's clarified my position on Project 2025 a little bit more. There are good aspects, there are bad aspects. CNN's takedown of it was a failed smear. I stand by that statement. I stand by my title, my thumbnail, the content of the video, everything else. If you haven't seen it, the link will be down in the description below. As for the stuff that Chris Hayes decided to cover in his segment, there are plenty of things in there that I disagree with. Again, I don't agree with imposing your moral authority on anyone. And I certainly don't agree with the government being reshaped or reformed in a way to make that, whatever the beliefs are. I don't think that it should be done in that way. My position is that government should get the fuck out, not that it should encroach further, which is obviously what the president of the Heritage Foundation and others are saying. But there are aspects of it that are decent. Like I said, dismantling the administrative state, returning to self-governance, all of those sorts of things. Those are good ideas. And we should take the good and throw out the bad. That's what we should do. Anyways, thanks again for 500 subs. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Talk to you soon.